Yeah, so we've been going over schedules throughout this offseason, and this is not a season preview, just a preview of the schedule that every team's looking at and just giving our thoughts along the way. We've now arrived in the SEC, our last power conference of the four, and yes, Alabama up first. Before we go any further, if you please hit that subscribe button, we would much appreciate that. But let's dive into Alabama, who a year ago finished 9-3 in the regular season. First year head coach coming over, the end of the Saban era, just a lot of just different feel to Alabama. And of course, there at the end, they just 2 weeks removed from getting beat by 3 touchdowns by the most lackluster Oklahoma team I've seen in 20 years. We're arguing for a playoff spot. That's where Alabama was last year at the end of the regular season with 3 losses, a bad loss to Oklahoma, and then eventually the snub and the loss in the bowl game to Michigan, the Rely Quest Bowl. So that was Alabama's 2024. Now, what does Kalen DeBoer have in store for 2025? Well, here's what they're looking at. Week number 1, Saturday, August the 30th, right out of the gates. A big game on the road against, well, how big of a game is it really? 5 years ago, it would have been a really big game.
Well, even 2.
But now, though.
God, these two have some bad blood.
Is this last year's Florida State, or is this 2 years ago's Florida State, Paul Catalina?
Is there any
3 years ago, Florida State.
3 years ago.
Is there a revenge factor for 23 with Alabama getting in?
I guess. I don't know. Like, I think their ceiling is 2022, where they started out a little rough and then they figured it out and they hit the gas and they didn't lose again until the bowl game, the Orange Bowl against Georgia a year later. So I think it's probably somewhere between there. Like, that was a 10-3 team. I think this team is probably 7-5 or 8-4 based on what they've done.
All right.
But I don't like. Of those 5 or 4, one of them is almost definitely going to be Alabama. And if it's not, then maybe we're talking about Mike Norvell, shooting the life back into this program. But I don't see any reason to think that they're not 1-0 easily.
Garrett, normally when you have a pay game, when you pay somebody to come to your place, how arrogant is it for Alabama to pay Florida State for this gimme game and then say, we'll play you in Tallahassee?
I mean, it's a flex. It's definitely a flex.
If some Florida State fan actually stumbles upon us, doesn't realize that we're trolling the hell out of Paul, they would think that we're just like the biggest haters in the world.
This dude's got to eat the dog shit. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
He's got to do it.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
He did that, and he put all of us in this. And he's the one who's got to get us out.
Wasn't there a guy that did say he would do it and did it, or was that a different bet that maybe it wasn't that?
No,
I don't know.
A guy did like a burrito, like he put a burrito
in his butt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Well, that's normal. Never mind that.
And here's the thing. Like, that's not like, I mean, that's just clean up later. You don't have to taste anything. Like, he didn't eat the burrito.
Yeah, well.
He didn't eat it?
No, he just put it in there. Right. So
the point is that Florida State is just perplexing at the moment, and yet that's a big name, marquee game right out of the gates for Alabama at Florida State. Already announced a 2:30 ABC game on August 30th. They'll follow that up the following weekend, UL Monroe at home, and then I'm telling you, this Alabama schedule, week number 3, September 13th, another name out of the Big Ten this time, and it is Wisconsin in Tuscaloosa. That announced as an 11 a.m. kickoff on September the 13th.
It's Jake Retzloff.
Maybe doubtful, but perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. But there is their first 3 games, and they get a bye week in week number 4. So at Florida State, UL Monroe, and Wisconsin at home. They will not be lacking in some name here, but how good is Florida State? How good is Wisconsin? We'll see when the time comes.
Well, thank God that we don't know. They're not going to be all that good because the next game they have, that they better.
I get like the Big Ten saying that they want 9 games, but they've got to look otherwhere. I mean, I know that there's a team at the end of their schedule that we'll make fun of, but
Pogo! Earn and save on everything. Join over 2 million people who use Pogo to save on their everyday finances while getting paid for their data. Earn rewards on every purchase seamlessly. Save on finances automatically. Make your data work for you. Take control of your data and how you monetize it. Get paid whenever your data or opinions are used for market research and personalized ads. Get paid for your data transparently. Automatically find ways to save money on bills, insurance, and bank fees. Download the Pogo app to get started at joinpogo.com.
Like, they've got to look other places other than Alabama, because Alabama never doesn't schedule big name teams. Never.
Yep. So nice non-con there with Florida State on the road and then Wisconsin. Then they open up SEC play following a bye week after that Wisconsin game, and it will be a road trip to Athens for a mega matchup with the Georgia Bulldogs. That's how SEC play will open up. Bama, Georgia, between the hedges. That's already been announced as a night game on ABC. Saturday, September the 27th, followed by the next week, Diego Pavia, his big mouth, and the Vanderbilt Commodores
Unbeaten
in
number
Tuscaloosa.
one team, yeah.
And I would think that there will be no lack of bulletin board, and he doesn't even have to say anything else, just based off last year. They've got plenty of bulletin board for Diego Pavia, but they will see Vanderbilt on October the 4th. Then they will travel to take on Missouri, October the 11th. Then back home for Tennessee on October the 18th. And then finally to round out the second phase as we are in this double bye week season once again, which I enjoy. It breaks the season down into 3 parts. So this second part before that final bye week will be rounded out by a road trip at South Carolina, Lenore Sellers and Company on the road. So I tell you, man, this damn schedule looks tough as hell for Alabama. So after already playing FSU and Wisconsin in the non-con, your second phase at Georgia, Vandy at home, at Missouri, Tennessee at home, at South Carolina.
Yeah, and look, there's a very real possibility that they could stumble out of here with 3 losses among that group.
We could have hot seat talk on Kalen DeBoer by like week 8.
We could.
We could.
There's also that Kalen DeBoer could be the next
Saban.
Nick Saban baptized him, and now he's figured it out. Although
but that's the fun, is that we don't just know Alabama's this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Nick Saban also, if Nick Saban had this schedule, I would say even Saban would have trouble getting his team in the playoff with this schedule because of the way that the rosters work now. So, look, South Carolina should have beaten them last year. They had them dead to rights, and Bama just out-experienced them. South Carolina just kind of hyperventilated, to steal a term from Smokey there. They did that. So, look, that's gonna be the game. South Carolina, I think, in their minds, that the fans are saying,
have they arrived or not?
This is where we announce our presence to the world. And we'll see. Tennessee, we'll see, what happens there after Nico's gone, but you could go to Mizzou and lose. It's
possible.
It's not easy to
win. You can lose to Vanderbilt. They could lose to everybody on the schedule thus far except UL Monroe. And then I know somebody will say, well, they're not going to lose to Wisconsin or something. You never know, though. This is post Saban. All bets are off. And even with him, sometimes there were wild cards that you never expected. Yeah. That's sports. So after South Carolina on the road, the final 4-game stretch there in the month of November after that second bye week, it'll be LSU at home on Saturday, November the 8th, all Saturday games for the Crimson Tide. Then Oklahoma at home. So back-to-back LSU, Oklahoma at home, and then a third straight home game in November as they get what I think is everybody's just big bitch with the SEC schedule, which is, best in the world, blah, 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 this and that. But then it's as tough as this schedule is, and look, you would want a break, and it'd be nice to have a break. But the fact they do have a break is what bothers people, because after LSU and Oklahoma, and they've had a hell of a schedule at this point, but this is the game that is your recharge, your third non-conference game that you don't play until later in the season. Eastern Illinois at home for Alabama there on November the 22nd. And then the final game to round it out, of course, you probably guessed this one. It'll be the big rivalry matchup, their Iron Bowl with Auburn. And this one on the road, Saturday, November the 29th. So part 3 of that schedule, LSU at home, Oklahoma at home, Eastern Illinois at home, and then road trip for the Iron Bowl to take on the Tigers.
Yeah, the Hugh Freeze era in this has been a big tease because, they had him, and then a miracle happened,
Oh, that was the Milrow throw,
Yeah,
right?
the Milrow throw. Also, Eastern Illinois logo looks like the FCS logos that you get on the video game. Like if your team is scheduled.
You know damn well somebody got paid like $500,000 to design that. But it does look it's kind of unique, but yeah. Like minor league hockey logo or something kind of a deal. Yeah. No offense to whoever designed that's watching right now. But yeah, it definitely is newer looking, that Eastern Illinois Panther logo. So anyways, there is the part 3 of 3 of the schedule. So man, damn, I mean, road trips to Florida State and to Georgia and to Mizzou and to South Carolina and to Auburn, and then home games with the likes of Wisconsin and Vandy and Tennessee and LSU and Oklahoma. I mean, that's pretty salty on paper, and you can almost forgive Eastern Illinois tucked there in the back half because of who they play up front. But as far as who they don't play and who they would only see in a championship scenario, whether the SEC title game or the college football playoff, no Arkansas, no Florida, no Kentucky, no Mississippi State, no Ole Miss, no Texas A&M on the schedule for Alabama. But it doesn't feel like, even if you say, oh, well, they don't play this team, it doesn't feel like they got away with a whole lot with this schedule. It feels like it's still plenty tough, even though you didn't get, necessarily every single monster you could possibly cross paths with. So, yeah, man.
Good God.
Tough uphill climb. Tough climb for Kalen DeBoer in year 2, potentially.
Here's what I do agree with Greg Sankey about when he's talking about the playoff. The strength of schedule metric should matter the most when it comes to this. The problem is that Greg Sankey is trying to put data in the metric that didn't happen in the year that the playoff committee is going to be.
Yeah, he wants to use like the last 5 years, even though that should not matter at all, or 5-10 years or whatever, and then also use the polls to some extent, whereas those are absolutely BS at times because you have a scenario that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically, where oftentimes a team loses and they fall but stay in, and the team that beats them jumps in, and all of a sudden you're like, we got 8 SEC teams in the 20. It's like, well, yeah, you did, because
I call it the bubble.
Yeah, it's because there's that bubble there. So, yeah, I mean, I'm with him in a way, but I'm not totally with him on how to determine that.
I agree. It's the bubble, though. It's like a team that's unranked beats a 16th ranked team. All of a sudden, they're ranked. The team that won that was unranked is 22nd. The 16th ranked team is 20.
But compare this schedule.
Always,
yeah. No, you're right.
And one of the things about the schedule is this is when Sankey could be right.
Right.
This is a freaking tough schedule.
Well, this is when you're looking at Indiana's schedule last year and you're going like, yeah, we lost 2 more games, but look at our schedule compared to who they played, and you've got a point in a way.
But if you want to be a part of a conference, you got to accept the good that comes with it when you get the bump, but also you have to understand if the algorithm is bad, well, you're shit out of luck.
And most of all, don't lose by 3 touchdowns to a middle-of-the-road Oklahoma team at the end of the year.
Or Vanderbilt.
And the thing about Greg Sankey is you can have a valid cause, but your methodology can be messed up. So, yes, he has a very valid point, but it would be like, all right, we need to lower taxes for everybody. You know what we should do? Let's get rid of water. And you're like, well, no. Like, if we don't have to pay on water, then everybody will have more money. Like, we need water. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Or let's get rid of taxes. Let's get rid of the people who collect them. Like, no, we still
the
need
loss
people
to Vanderbilt ended up being like almost like they had lost to Georgia. And they ended up 7-6, I think, at Vanderbilt. If they were 8-5, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, this is rather interesting. And golly,
it's a very interesting schedule. They play some big time teams, and so I think this is it's a really salty schedule. We're just getting started with the SEC, so we'll see who else is comparative to this one. But this is definitely, we've been through 3 leagues already, and this is up there. It's not necessarily the toughest, but it's up there for sure.